rise up. DSP, rise up. DSP.
Woo!
Hey there, everybody.
That's Ashkahn over there.
This is Ashkahn. It's Graham hanging out over there.
Sup?
Yeah.
How you doing?
Yeah. Make yourselves comfortable.
Relax.
Yeah, relax.
Don't mind.
Lie down, maybe.
Yeah, kick those shoes off.
Yeah, no problem. No one's judging you
And then
here.
kick those. Can you kick socks off? Kick
I'm
those
gonna lie
socks
down.
off.
I will lie down with you.
Just snuggle in here for a second. Hold on. Make room.
What's up?
Boy,
What's up? What are we doing today?
There's a question that we're answering. Okay, so today's question is, what's up with the Mac? Feel like I heard a lot about it for a while and nothing lately.
Yeah.
The old Mac attack.
Yeah. Astute.
So its Mac is an acronym, and unless they're talking about Mac's earplugs, which they don't have the right spelling, so it's MAHC,
Yeah.
which might not be immediately obvious from how I pronounced it. Stands for the
Good for
Model
clarity.
Aquatic Health Code.
I mean, if you don't know it, maybe you should just listen. We have other episodes where we explain what this is.
Yeah, well, now that they know what to look for, they search the Model Aquatic Health Code.
Search the model code. We'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah, it's in the show notes.
Yeah, it's there. It's already in there.
Yeah, from your perspective, not from ours, but
I found out really only recently that we can just say it'll be in the show notes and somebody's going to do it. Like this whole time I thought I was like, oh boy, like are we supposed to go do that? And it's just happened. Like Juliet out there is just going and looking this stuff up.
that's what having amazing employees is like.
So yeah, we'll go ahead and put it in the show notes for this episode. The GDP growth of the three fastest growing economies for countries from the year 2016 to 2017. So you can look forward to that.
Yeah, so check it out. We'll put a link to our other bigger blog post on the
Blog
Mac
post,
as well.
episode. Yeah, we talked a lot
The actual
about
Mac, we'll link over to that.
Yeah, that'll be in there. That'll be in the show notes too.
All right, so there you have it. We'll provide a
As
lot of
long
great
as
resources
along with
for
the
you.
difference between an alligator and a crocodile. Also, that's going to be in the show notes of this episode. What was the question? The Mac. Okay, what's going on with the Model Aquatic Health Code? Yeah, so this thing came out. It got voted on.
We can put the question in the show notes for you if you need it, Ashkahn.
Yeah, that would be actually pretty great. Then I could just look at that, and maybe my answer too should go in there. This thing was a big deal last year. There was a lot of conversation about it. We talked about it at the Float conference. There was being developed. It was being voted on. So much was happening. They had a meeting about it, and eventually it got voted in.
Yep.
And that was October of last year, 2017. And then it takes from that point until a couple months ago. I think it must have been either late July or early August.
Yeah, somewhere around there.
Sometime in the summer, it came out and actually got released as version 3 of the Model Aquatic Health Code. So from October till July, it had been decided on, but they had to go and do all their formatting and stuff to get the whole document ready and to push this big update. And so that's what happened. So now, as opposed to being something people knew about or, that it was going to be in there, they've actually released the new version of the Model Aquatic Health Code, which they do in these batches every 3 years now. And this whole float tank section that got voted in was in there. So now if a health department person were to look on the CDC's website and look at the Model Aquatic Health Code, in the code would be this whole section about float tanks. And honestly, that's really all that's happened so far. I mean,
if you went back and paused this one and listened to our previous episode, you know a lot of things now, right? You know that this isn't a law that actually got voted into effect. We're not waiting for it to specifically kick in different areas. And I guess the kind of way that we thought it was going to go down is sort of how it has happened, at least so far, which is, and I have seen it brought up, I've seen the Model Aquatic Health Code referenced, but almost not more now than beforehand, before it had actually been published, but was still up there as the accepted language. In the sense that I think people are looking to it as one of the few, from their perspective, health department officials' perspectives, few vetted resources on how to properly maintain float tank sanitation. And so
Yeah.
people were, even before it was released, were getting wind of that and using that to start a conversation with centers that are looking to start up in their area.
At least people who are in the know more.
Yeah.
Like the health department, people who come out to the conferences and stuff.
I'm talking, maybe like 2 or 3 places that this has happened to. So a very small amount in the scheme of things.
Yeah, I mean, while it sounds like nothing has happened, is like not a very big news. I mean, it is interesting to think about because that was, as we were going into this, one of the big things that was being discussed last year while all this was happening was what's going to happen when this gets released.
Yeah,
and some people thought this would just get released and immediately all these health departments would start picking it up and we were going to see a kind of sudden wave of these regulations being kind of spread.
That's a good place to start, is back at the beginning instead of just hopping into it like I did. I like the direction you're going here. This is a good episode.
We'll break this episode up into time codes and put the right order of listening to it in the show notes for you. And you can jump around. And
every one of those costs us money. We are actually paying someone to do that.
No, and we'll put the percentage of our total expenses that this joke is costing us in the show notes of this episode.
This episode is going to be like 200%. Possible. Anyway, go on. What were you saying?
So the important thing to take away here is that we haven't seen like a sudden, wave of regulations pop up all of a sudden. And I think that's what probably a lot of people were expecting, including people in the health department and the people who run the Model Aquatic Health Code. They were saying on the phone calls leading up to this, it takes years from the point that they release language to the point that they actually see it kind of spread or any form of kind of widespread adoption. And I've honestly only heard of, so far personally, a single case of this actually coming up. I know of one health department that referenced the Model Aquatic Health Code, and this was before it was fully released. They basically there was a float center opening up, and they were trying to figure out, how to deal with the health department, and the health department was trying to figure out how to deal with the float center. And the person at the health department said, "Hey, there's this Model Aquatic Health Code stuff that just came through. You should look at that." And they actually said, because it's written by the CDC, and so they've probably done a lot of good research into it, And they did look at that, and they actually did accept a lot of things in it. Like they removed the need for chlorine and used the 3 turnovers that's written in there. And they also didn't use stuff. They didn't require the kind of full requirements for UV that are listed in there. So, there's a very real world example of that code being kind of referenced and adopted in part, but not adopted in full.
Do you remember what health department that was?
That was in Georgia. So, I don't know if that was on the state level or more of a county.
Sure, or a local one, yeah. Because the same thing, like similar, and from both directions, we've been getting on the float tank solutions side of things too, in the sense of health departments who, again, maybe it's at the county level, maybe at the state level, have found the Model Aquatic Health Code and are kind of referencing that in discussions. Again, we're talking about 2 or 3, maybe. And then other times where people are just getting ready to start up, and it sounds like their area is going to be a little harsher to them. And we kind of have advised them in those cases to maybe think about bringing up the Model Aquatic Health Code themselves to the health department, just because it is so nice about lower turnover rates and not using chlorine and getting a foot in the door with those arguments. Yeah,
so it's, I think part of what people were concerned about with this thing being voted in the first place is that the Model Aquatic Health Code, if you didn't want it to be applied at all or only liked part of it or whatever, is going to turn into a series of smaller conversations and dealings across all the different health jurisdictions that are out there. And, that is pretty much, I think, what's going to happen.
And that's what's been going down, too. And I haven't heard of anyone where it's just their state is coming at them with this thing, and they're like, I'm going to hold you 100% to the letter of the Model Aquatic Health Code. Like, that's not a story that I've heard from anyone, I guess, maybe except New Mexico or something. Where
at least, yeah. I mean, and also, the Model Aquatic Health Code itself. I mean, even New Mexico, I don't know if they've adopted version 3 of the Model Aquatic Health Code. I don't know either.
Right? So I have no idea what's going on with that.
So I don't know. It's at the very least, what we know so far is that this is probably going to be kind of a slow roll, and we'll see where it goes from here, for good or for bad.
And so far, the health departments do seem open to discussing the different parts of the Model Aquatic Health Code or of the float tank regulations separately. It doesn't seem to be that they're just, coming in all or nothing kind of method of talking. So that's good too.
And the Model Aquatic Health Code will be updated again in 2021. So,
There you have it.
Put that in your calendar.
We'll release another episode then.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. We'll talk to you then.
All right. If you have your own water sanitation questions, salt questions, wardrobe suggestion questions,
economic forecasting you want us to put in the show notes, anything like that.
Yeah, head on over to floatanksolutions.com/podcast. See what happens.
Yeah. All right. I will.
Bye.
Bye.